Hallelujah. Nkosi sihlangene kuyo indlu yakho I'll
She can sing this song with me. We never rehearsed this one. This was not part of the plan. I just felt the song was bubbling in my spirit. Can you get out your microphone? You are here telling me you are here. You are here. You are here, Lord. You are here. In this way. May we please rise. May we please rise.
Jehovah, we are glorious. Hey, we are hallelujah, Jehovah. Yes, oh mama, yes, one, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hey, we are hallelujah, Jehovah.
Thank you. May we remain standing as we receive the two national anthems, the South African National Anthem and the African Union National Anthem.
Lady, deep,
in South Africa. Let us all unite and celebrate together the victories won for our liberation. Let us dedicate ourselves to rise together to defend our liberty and unity. Oh, sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa a tree of life. Let us all unite and sing together to uphold the bonds that frame our destiny. Let us dedicate ourselves to fight together for lasting peace and justice on earth. Oh, sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life. Let us all unite and join together to give the best we have to Africa, the cradle of mankind, the fount of culture, our pride and hope at break of dawn. Oh, sons and daughters of Africa, flesh of the sun and flesh of the sky, let us make Africa the tree of life.
Please be seated.
This AI
Rasegatla, the Rasegatla More families, Siaparankwe Masofi de Brain, former members of the African National Congress, National Executive Committee, the chairperson of the ANC Integrity Committee, colleagues of General Rasegatla, General Shoke, the former chief of SANDF, other generals present, senior officers, members of the law enforcement agencies present with us, commanders, commissars of Mkhonto Wesizwe, fellow mourners. May I, at this particular juncture, having established that protocol, call on all of us as congregants, apart from the chief mourner, to do a moment of silence. May we all rise. Thank you. At this juncture, may I call a member of the preparatory committee, Comrade Johnny Msala, to, as directed by the chief mourner, to welcome you.
Good morning. Good morning. It sounds like people are surprised at my voice, so that's why they did not respond at the beginning. My task is a very simple one. My task is to welcome you in your eminence to this beginning of the memorialization of the life of General Rasegatla, as directed by the family, the prep committee, the African National Congress in this region. I welcome you all. When I think of General Rasegatla, there's one lesson that he taught me. And I want to permeate the proceedings of this day with that lesson. I was called to come and address a particular gathering of political education. And as usual, I went to him to get guidance. And the issue under discussion was a new cadre in the renewed African National Congress. General Rasegatla, in his element, decided he was not going to tell me anything about what I asked him. He instead told me this, that on this earth, you would never find one Christian or one communist or one cadre. And went on to explain that to achieve those, it's a process in learning. And he tells this wonderful story. And this story happened during the Second World War. When Russian soldiers were retreating and in hot pursuit with German soldiers, they had to cross a bridge. And they realized that after crossing the bridge, the enemy forces were going to cross that bridge too. So the most logical thing to do was to blow the bridge up. But what was against them was time to put enough explosive to blow the bridge up. In that confusion, one of the soldiers said to the commanding officer, "Give me enough explosives to blow this bridge up, and you continue with the rest of the soldiers to cross the bridge." And it was clear that when that happens, that soldier was going to die in the process. And the commander asked him one question: "What do you want us to do after your death?" And the soldier said, "Just declare me a communist." If you can't read between the lines, it's not my fault. You are well welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Johnny. My name is Dikgamo Pelwa. I was directed that I should be the person who runs orders of proceedings, or I was commandeered to run the order of proceedings. We will be receiving, now it's important that we explain this. We are in Gauteng by directive of General Len. He said he wants to be at his final resting place should be in Ratjiepane. And Ratjiepane under the Magistral District, it falls under Themba. And Themba falls under Hammanskraal. But the new demarcation places Ratjiepane under Northwest. Now, I'm going to call upon a member of the Provincial Executive Committee of Northwest, Comrade George Manyike, to welcome us in Northwest while we're in Gauteng. Comrade George.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge the bereaved family of Rasegatla, Malekolle, former members of the ANC, NEC. I can see also, let me acknowledge the presence of Reverend Frank Shikani and Father Mkachwa. I can see Father Mkachwa. Siaparangwe, Mama Sophie De Brain, General Shope, and other generals present here. Senior officers, commanders and commissars of the Umkhonto weSizwe. My name is Masango George Manyike. I'm the mayor of Malekolle Local Municipality under Bojanala District in the Northwest Province. It gives me a pleasure to stand before you on behalf of Northwest Provincial Government led by the Acting Premier, also the ANC Chairperson, Comrade Nono Patrick Dumile Maloi. Program Director, we are gathered here to pay the tribute and celebrate the life of a gallant giant, the late General Rasegatla. A gallant giant has fallen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the mayor of the rural municipality in the Northwest, which comprises of 26 wards made up of 76 villages and plots. The late general hailed from Ward 26 in Ratjiepane village under Kosi Matibe. And it's with great sorrow to announce the passing on of the wife of Kosi Matibe. I've just learned now that the wife of Kosi Matibe has passed on in Matibestad. The general lived his life and touched many outside the boundaries of Malekolle. Today we are here to pay our respect to him. To the Rasegatla family, relatives and friends, colleagues and comrades, please be comforted, for the late general has lived his life and made a mark. So yesterday we were voting. So I want to deliver this message to the general and others that in Malekolle, in Northwest, he must deliver the message to Comrade Mandela, Sisulos and others that ANC is in good hands. We are going to make sure, we are sure that In Moretele, Northwest, we are going to retain the province. We cannot sell the province to others. So it's my message to that the general must deliver to our ancestors there. So with those few words, Comrade Milo, I want to thank you on behalf of the Northwest Province. Thank you very much. May the soul of the general rest in peace. Bahwaduba. When I say Bahwaduba, because he was a Muhaduba. In Ratjiepane, they are Bahwadubas. When I say Bahwaduba, you must say Komo. Bahwaduba. Thank you very much.
Ra leboga Majoro. As we have established the protocol, we will continue to acknowledge those amongst us who came to pay their respect to our general, the commissar, the combatant, a member of Mkhonto Wesizwe, member of the Integrity Committee, a securocrat, a militarist, a father, a brother, an uncle, and a friend to many of us. It gives me a very interesting privilege that I stand before you today, but I work under orders. I was directed when Rasegatla issued the first orders that we must be phoned. There were four names that were called, and I happened to be the youngest of that name. And the rest then said, continue, take orders from House Pinky, we are all with you. However, because we work within structures, it was important that two offices are informed. The first office is where Bralen was working. You see, he retired, but he was working. I'm not sure, Spinky, whether he was being paid to work there. So I was commanded that we must communicate with Reverend, the chair of the Integrity Committee. The second order was the MKLWV must not disappoint. It's my honor to call on Comrade Dan Hato, the national convener of MKLWV, to officially come and address you.
My name is Dan Hato. It is not. But before I continue with my presentation to honor General Rasegatla, Bralen, it is important as a culture of this organization and as a culture of its former military wing, Mkhonto Wesizwe. And moreover that, we are here to honor a teacher, not by profession, but a teacher by birth, Bralen, that we teach each other. That is a task that I've given to myself as the leader of Mkhonto Wesizwe Propagation of Veterans, that we should also borrow from the slogan of COSAS, each one teach one. That especially for the young ones that are here, the meaning of what is a national anthem. It is important that we need at all times to teach our children the right things so that when they grow up, they are also part of those who are building this country. I've seen in many gatherings when the national anthem is sung, people are going up and down. And I'm just saying, when the national anthem is sung, you stand where you are in respect of the anthem itself. Because the interpretation of that, when they say that it's a national anthem, it's a South African anthem, it gives us our sovereignty. It tells us who we are. So it is important that when we go such things, dear comrades, we're not just doing it because it has to be done. We are doing it for a purpose. So it is important that when we do such rituals, we also explain to those who are coming after us. It is not just a ritual that we have to do. It's something that we are teaching each other. We are here, dear people, to pay tribute to a giant. Some of us will call him Johannes Rasegatla, some of us will call him Ratjiepane. And I can't continue with my speech before I give you a quote. And if you are a member of Mkonto Wesizwe, and you are not well versed with this quote, then you need to go back and read the books that we used to use in exile. And I'm coming with this quote because it really talks to Ubraland. And the quote is from none other than the well-known writer from the then Soviet Union, Ostrovsky. And I quote, "Man's dearest possession is life. It is given to him but once, and he must live it, so as to feel no torture and regrets for wasted years. Never know the burning shame of a mean and petty past, so live that. Dying, he might say, all my life, all my strength were given to the finest cause in all the world," close quote. But I need to repeat the last stanza that says, all my life, all my strength were given to the finest cause in all the world. And that is none other than the giant we are here to respect today, Ratjiepane. Ratjiepane was a classical teacher, a man with an ear and volumes of patience. My comrade here, Comrade Johnny, testified to that when he gave us a very short anecdote of Ratjiepane when he went to him for advice before delivering a political lecture. He was an MKK personified and a true revolutionary. In the annals of South Africa's struggle for freedom, certain names shine brightly, etched indelibly into the nation's collective memory. General Rasegatla stands among these luminaries, a figure of unwavering determination and extraordinary courage, who fought valiantly against the brutal apartheid regime. His story is one of resilience, ingenuity, and a profound commitment to justice. Born in a time when South Africa was entrenched in the oppressive grip of apartheid, General Rasegatla's early years were marked by the systemic injustices that sought to diminish his humanity and that of his fellow black South Africans. Yet, from these challenging beginnings, a steadfast resolve took root within him. A resolve that would propel him into the heart of the liberation movement. Ralen's courage was most vividly demonstrated during his time underground, living covertly under the ever-watchful eyes of the apartheid authorities, operating with remarkable skill and stealth. He evaded capture for an extended period, orchestrating and participating in action that struck at the heart of the oppressive regime. His ability to navigate this perilous existence while continuously contributing to the liberation efforts speaks volumes about his resourcefulness and indomitable spirit. I'm not going to elaborate much on the exploits of Comrade Len when he was underground in this country, when it was not fashionable to be associated with the African National Congress. Comrade Shoke is here to do that. Mine is just to amplify the selflessness that you found in cadres like Brian. Some of us, until we were told, or some of us, when we got into exile and went for training, Brian was already operating inside South Africa when it was not fashionable to be associated with the African National Congress. Some of us didn't know all the great things that Brian did for this country until people associated with him told us about it. Because Brian, for him, it was a noble thing to do. It was not for him to put himself on the pedestal. He was an ordinary cadre of Mkondo Wesizwe, a disciplined cadre of Mkondo Wesizwe, a disciplined cadre that would always make sure that the principles of this organization are carried out to the end. Do we have such cadres today in our organization? That's a debate for another day. As a general, Brian was not just a leader but a symbol of hope and resilience. He inspired countless others to join the struggle, to resist, and to believe in the possibility of a free and just South Africa. His strategic acumen and profound understanding of both military and political landscapes made him a formidable freedom fighter, a cadre in a real sense of the word. Under his leadership, many operations were carried out that not only challenged the authority of the oppressive government, but also galvanized international support for the anti-apartheid cause. Brian knew the meaning of a cadre of the African National Congress. Brian knew the meaning of a fighter of Mkondo Wesizwe. Brian understood that the people of South Africa were looking upon the African National Congress to change the status quo in this country. And I want to repeat, he did this at a time when it was not fashionable for all of us. There were no prospects of going to parliament. There were no prospects of being a premier. There were no prospects of being a mayor. But all that was in front of us at that time was death. And people like Brian were prepared to sacrifice their lives for the good of this country, and they did not expect any payment for that. Do we still have such leaders in our organization? It's a discussion for another day. Beyond his technical prowess, General's humanity and vision for a united South Africa were evident in his interactions with fellow freedom fighters and the communities he sought to liberate. A teacher by birth. That's how Comrade managed to survive. He knew, he understood his mission. Whatever orders that were given to him, Comrade Glenn and his unit understood that we're not only in South Africa to put limpet mines in the stations, but to educate our people as to where do we want to go with South Africa, to educate our people about the National Democratic Revolution. That is why today you find many of you, it's a day after elections. We saw the visuals as to what was happening at the stations. I'm sure if it was not for yesterday's event, this hall would be full. But ironically, we're having a memorial service for Comrade Glenn after the elections in this country, that some people termed them to the elections of 1994. Comrade Glenn, as a teacher, taught some of us here the meaning of sacrificing, the meaning of giving yourself, the meaning of ceasing to be yourself when you join the African National Congress, that you are a servant of the people. Do we still have such leaders today? In reflecting on General Rasegatla's life, we are reminded of the extraordinary sacrifices made by those who fought the freedoms we now hold dear. His journey from the shadows of oppression to the light of a liberated nation serves as a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming adversity. We as MKWV must emulate Galen in many ways. We must correct the malfeasance taking place at the DMV in honor of Galen. The ANC must recognize the role played by MK cadres in honor of Galen. Military veterans must be lifted out of poverty and squalor in honor of Galen. Galen, when I was appointed to the convener of MKWV, he made it his duty to give me a call almost every week to ask, Comrade Convener, where are we? Galen would make it a point, whenever there are hardships, would call and ask Comrade Ben, where can we chip in to assist? Galen would have said at his place, he was on retirement. But when he was called to serve on the Integrity Commission, he gladly accepted that. And I must confirm, Comrade Program Director, that those comrades working in the Commission, they are paid nothing, but they are giving their time for a good cause. Galen was always concerned about the plight of military veterans. That is why he was in the forefront with the Deputy Minister of Defense, Comrade Malekolle, with people like Comrade Johnny, with people like Comrade Milo, to stand up and say, the MK that is leading, MK military veteran, is not the MK that we know. That is why, before we went to East London Conference, Umkhonto Wesizwe National Council was formed. It was people like Anel who had a love for their own comrades, who are today swimming in poverty, who are today living in Somalia, when there's an entity that is supposed to assist them. General Rasegatla's story is a crucial chapter in the narrative of South Africa's liberation. A chapter that underscores the importance of perseverance, unity, and the relentless pursuit of justice. As we honor his memory, let us also recommit ourselves to the ideals for which he fought. A world where freedom, equality, and human dignity prevail. I call upon our commissariat to lead the debate on our 30 years of democracy and what next after 30 years. Is it enough that we celebrate our democracy after 30 years? What is it that we want to achieve? What should be the next step after achieving our democracy? Because the fact of the matter, the wealth of this country is in right hands. The fact of the matter, our children need to be directed so that tomorrow they become better citizens of this country. This is what drives me and then we fight it. That is why it is important today that as we are here, to the family of Galen, we must at the very same time celebrate his life. Galen, under difficult conditions, he has never forsaken the African National Congress. He was always part of those who want to change this country. In order for Galen, MK has to lead the direction South Africa will take after these elections. Our country is bleeding. There is a need for an indaba by South Africans for South Africans. And Galen with the rest in peace. Rest in peace, General Rasegatla. Your legacy continues to inspire and guide us as we strive to build a better, prosperous South Africa and a better world for all. That is why Galen was also part of all those who wanted to see people of Palestine living in peace, because he understood the teachings of Nelson Mandela that South Africa can never be free until Palestine is free. People like Galen would always be part of those projects, because our struggle does not end only in South Africa. It's international. It's not by chance. The African National Congress was not just trying to gather votes. It's something that was inculcated in us because we trained with those comrades from Palestine. We know where they are coming from as the African National Congress. And Galen was part of that. Amanda! Long live the spirit of comrade Glen, long live! Amanda!
Now that we have established the directives, it is important that we also understand a different land. And for us to understand a different land, we will have to change a little bit on our program. He was a citizen, he was a resident. The mayor has, he will further enunciate and as we go to Ratjiepane to see the other human being landmass. Jaanong ha re na le nako motseng re na le baagisane. We're going to call on Wanda Mwase, who was a neighbor of the Rasegatla family. Now we used to contest, me and him, when we speak. I will say he's not staying in Gauteng. It's I will contest that he's not staying in Gauteng, he stays in Pretoria. So there are those amongst us here who would know the contestation of Gauteng as the proper Johannesburg and Gauteng as a province together with Pretoria. We'll come back to that point. Rematse, moagisane wa gago o e.
Moagisane wa Dr. Rasegatla, I think I can express myself well in my language, especially for someone who's not used to speaking what language. So, Dr. Rasegatla, as a parent, like the community as a parent. And we did mallet. So at first I thought it would almost like that. And I smiled. So it told me to apply that too much. It's very well fix the issues that are in the state. And and can make the relationships on the state. When you said I had to move because they are guided, that's okay. We are still expecting a lot from you. And then the Democrat coming in so really we have Radima, Papa for the way push some of us to the state. So, as promised, whenever we are there anytime you need our help.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, Remwatse says he knows Manen. Abedi was very quiet and not talking, and sometimes they had other thinking about him, that he's either thinking for himself or about himself, but until they begin to interact with him through matters of the Residents Association of Congo, he then begin to learn more from him how they are beginning to resolve the issues and the matters. They are going to miss him, and he has made himself available to the family to continue the work that was done by Rasegatla. At this juncture, I'm going to call the family of Dwanen before the ANC and controversies took him from the family. Let go Rasegatla, go Mure, to come and tell us about their brother, their uncle, their Amani, Malekolle. Ausara, you may come and talk to us. As Ausara is preparing to come, as Vikima More, you will also immediately after Ausara, please ascend the stage. Ausara.
Thank you, Program Director, the entire members of the Rasegatla family, particularly Malipingi, Bana, the grandchildren, Malekolle Rena, the More family, religious leaders who are in our midst today, traditional leaders who are Malekolle, leadership of the ANC for Gauteng and Northwest, all political formations who are here, and all protection observed. I salute you, fellow South Africans. I'm going to borrow a quote from Winston Churchill regarding my speech. It is going to be like a woman's skirt, particularly the middle one, for that matter, so that I'll actually be short to create interest, but long to cover all the good bits I remember about my work.
Yes, we need it for now.
On behalf of the Ideological, but Malekolle, I must say this is hard, quite possibly the hardest that I've ever had to do with. Sarah, I'm the daughter to his brother. My uncle was an unsung hero, invisible in the eyes of many. He was not loud, but made things happen. Rawalwaka touched the lives of many in small and big ways. He was so many things to so many people. His was not only that of duty and service, but was also one of compassion and empathy. It means a lot. It means a world to us as a family to know our uncles and cousin meant this much to his colleagues and the country as a whole. I am confident that some of you who are here have actually had something about my life, and that's why you are here. Over the past week, as messages of support were pouring in, we heard what a privilege and honor it was for people to serve with my father. His love for the country was very evident in his policies and in his practices. What a great person for us to have ever known, lived with, and related with. He raised his kids with love and respect. He was very gentle and kind. Today, whenever they are adults and independent, he gave all of us, the niece and the nephews, unconditional love. So much that when he is with others, one would think, they will also think the same when he is with you. And we had a very special bond with him. It is almost impossible to put that connection with. In the family, we have a group. This group, it's actually cousins, the nephews, the niece, Johannes Rasegatla. This group of people was launched at his house in 2013. And the name of the group is Club Juju. But I can please explain that the name was actually taken from the initials of our grandparents, Judas and Judah, hence Juju. It is not in any way politically formed. The one thing that I have to mention here is Ramanaka was strict in his kind of way. I'm going to tell you this, but I will not disclose the identity of the person. This one person once visited his office seeking to have the document certified. But this person did not have the original document. But he or she wanted the documents that she had, the photocopies of that document to be certified. And I think this person went to Ramana's office when he was still waking, thinking that life is just going to be easy. And well, this person related to me what actually happened. And Raman said to this person, so you want me to arrest you because you want to have this certified and you don't have the original. And I think this person thought it was a joke and repeated to say, I can arrest you. And then this person says, she walked out of the office without looking back. This shows just how much loyal Ramanaka was. Not only at his workplace, but for the organization as well. When we were young school children growing up, it was at that time when we had that Raman had skipped the country as the language that was used at that time. Police would come to my grandparents' home to raid it, and they would just arrive unannounced. They will, all the car boxes, whatever is inside, will be out, things will be timed. They would do that in a very, very harsh way. That would leave a person surprised as to what kind of people are these ones who do not even ask for permission to start doing what they were doing. And it is this one last incident that I just want to mention. At our home, it became a refugee place for some of the people that were working in Ramani, but we only got to know that after, not at the time. There were these people that were brought to my home, and surprisingly, at the time when they came, there was this room that they were given. We didn't have anybody in here, but all of a sudden, after those people were given accommodation at the room was under lock and key, and we were told there was not worried, about cleaning the room. And these people would, when we go to school, we were not going to come back from work. And then in the afternoon when we come back from work, these people are going to work. We were told they were looking for some bus company. And these people, like it has mentioned, it has been said by one of the speakers, are the people who have actually lived under the most difficult situation of the evil apartheid system. Because they were forced to leave their homes. They were forced to be called in names that were not theirs. Do you want this in an effort to get our country developed? And it is at this stage that I want to sincerely thank the Malekolle family on behalf of my family for having accepted Ramanaka unconditionally, as I've had at a time when it was not fashionable to do so. That they allowed their daughter's hand in marriage for Ramanaka. When I think by then, as I hear, he had already changed his identity class. Some know him as George Mababele, others know him as Lenzi. There isn't any of such names in his ID. It is Malekolle Johannes Rasegatla. Don't come name Ram Chacha Kevin at Diabetes. Fast forward, the Muni family visited my grandparents, coming to present my name to the family. And this song, which belongs to the Lutherans, or it is sung by the Lutherans, hymn 216, was led by my grandfather. And the song says, the song says, "Ihauya tukusimamana, kashokolesa nzuri. Ubani hanga ikamanyana, kenu kubi. Kaje kukiatana, kutamsukishigoni na mwana." And this was when my grandfather was very happy to see his son, as we all know, during those times when your child would go underground outside, having skipped the council, it was no guarantee that that person would come back. And I think my grandfather was also thinking about how brutal this would be to raise his sons looking for his son. God loves each one of us, as if only this one of us. Rest easy, Ramani. You fought the good fight. You have finished the race and kept the faith.
As we give
family ya Rasegatla le ya More, the officers sa mokgatlo, brothers and sisters. Like Vicky More, I happen to be being his sister-in-law. My husband was supposed to do the tribute, but due to ill health, he is unable. But he is present here. So he wrote this tribute, and I'm just going to read it. So you'll have to excuse me if maybe I can't pronounce properly, because it's even his handwriting. I didn't write it. I think I first met Leonard in the late 70s or early 80s when I worked for a bank where we are approving home building loans for our clients. He introduced himself as George, and that he was a home builder. I still address him as George. Initially, a number of questions arose in my mind, as it was clear that he could be engaged in an occupation that was not only different, but could be a lot more meaningful and skill demanding. I later discovered that he had become my potential brother-in-law, in which case it was much easier to deal with him. If you want a stone, you can dig even using your fingers. But if you want gold, you have to dig much deeper using the required tools. I did that on land and a quiet, respectable, knowledgeable, and generally helpful man. Remember, gold, unlike ordinary metal, does not get rusty, so was land. In anyone was a tuha, Epilu, Yamaubani, yet come to know that he was a politician. I had never met such a non-tintinabulating politician, yet he was effective as well. I remember and won't forget the invitation to my parents' house. That was the night the concealment of his identity was publicly removed. We got to know him and his family well, and that was after the unbanning of the freedom fighters. We are rarely told that he politically and militarily and educationally mentored a number of young cadres, including the late great Solomon Mahlangu. Ke lebetse go mo ruta gore ka sekwena go tsamaya ba ba tona pele ba motlana ba tla no latela. Although we feel the loss by his departure, we should not forget that among the natural assets that the Creator gave to us is the passage of time, which is often neglected. Births and deaths happen, become their time has come. It's less time to go back home after a grueling and meaningful existence. We all wish he had lived a little longer, but the Creator says in Isaiah 55 verse 8, my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are higher than yours. Pinky, the children, Lady Sika, Fela, Humutzecha. Marion Williams, the singer, supports Ecclesiastes. Everything has its time, everything has a reason, everything has a season. Time to laugh, time to cry, time to be born and time to die. Robala kakafiso len, kafusala morago mo nakong e sa fediseng. Thank you.
Now, as we celebrate Ramadan, as we want to learn, and I can understand that the mood is learning this land. I'm going to call on Ikacheng to speak on behalf of all of us, the children and the grandchildren, to now give us the fatherhood of Marubela Johannes Rasegatla.
Afternoon, everybody. Johannes Rasegatla, the last born, Papa. Kinosi Rasegatla, my older brother, and Kitumeti, my sister. Now I've got a bit of grace, so you might not be able to tell us apart, but the parent-looking one will be me, so if I confuse them, just look for the better. I'm not a man of many words, just like my father, so I'll keep it short. So the numbers of people here today and that have been posting and showing up there for support and giving us their condolences really just is a testament to show how great of a man my father was. Personally, I have always thought of him as a great man, but my opinion may be biased. I've never been one to do that. My father can beat your father at debates as a child, but I did believe that to be the case. The man was a soldier. Over the years, my opinion of my father has only been reinforced by the stories that I've heard about him from his friends and the family. My father did not have an easy life from what you've heard. He has been through quite a lot of hardships, and all those hardships would make most people ugly and bitter, but he always was a kind man. I don't recall ever once being physically disciplined by him. He would rather sit me down and say, no, Ikacheng, don't do that. And that was enough for me to stop all of my shenanigans. I learned a lot from my father, even from the way he would do the bed in the morning. He took pride in making sure each sheet was done properly and each blanket was put on perfectly. As mundane as a task as doing your bed was, he really did take pride in doing it properly, which to me was quite a significant thing. He was a simple and humble man, not a man of many words, but he did leave a great impression on a lot of people, as you've heard, and as we've been receiving the condolences, we can hear how highly people think of him. I recently got married myself, and in the preparations of our wedding, my wife and I actually were getting so overwhelmed that we wanted to postpone the wedding. But through the guidance of my father and the family, we held on and we proceeded to have our wedding. It was quite a remarkable day. And I'm only glad that we actually insisted on us having that day, and he was there to witness our wedding. I wish I told him how in awe I was of him, and how proud I am to be his son. We love you, Dad, and you always live inside our hearts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ikacheng. There are two descriptions as we are dealing with Comrade Len, about Comrade Len, or General Rasegatla. We are now going to park a bit, General Rasegatla. We are now going to talk about Leonard Tsela, George Marubela. Because it's important that this one person in this many facets that he was, we need to explain. Now, there are probably less than 5 people who could relate with George Marubela. There are fewer members who would know about a Leonard Tsela. This is where the abbreviation or LEN comes from. But I want to say to Mama Sophie Ndatemek Maharaj, it was very difficult for us as a preparatory committee because we are contesting something very important. I think the African National Congress honestly should not only forget Bralen, but if there is a person who the history that we are talking about, the African National Congress ought to interview, ought to debrief properly, to understand how your soldier could survive from 1977 until he was unmasked by his fellow combatants in 1993 when they were preparing for integration. If there is one person that the African National Congress ought to speak to understand how your soldier survived, is our speak. because they first met in 1977. Now, Comrade Len went outside the country in 1975, before the June 16, 1976. And as those who were preparing to go outside the country, he was preparing to get inside the country. And amongst other things that he needed to do was to find a base. So if there is a person who can explain to all of us that period, is Auspinki. And we will come back. We promise Auspinki that we'll speak to General Shoket and Nyanda for them to make an affidavit. Now I can say Mama Sophie and I can say Tante Maharaj. The team that gave him the passport and the ID that he used inside the country, George Marobel. We need to officially declare to the South African government that George Marobel is Len Rasegatla, because that name, it is very important. And as time goes, we'll come back to George Marobel. At this juncture, I am going to call on Sherwood Nale. Now, Sherwood worked with Comrade Len at Organizing Department. But actually, Sherwood, they employed Comrade Len at the Northwest Provincial Government when we started. And there's a reason why we are jumping one portion to go to Comrade Sherwood.
Comrade Milo, the Rasegatla family has been, and the entire family, stalwarts of the ANC and the revolution, Tate Maharaj, Father Mkajo, Reverend Chikani, a Deputy Minister, Comrade Tabang, General Shoke, representing commanders and commissars, leadership of Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War veterans, so former ambassadors present here, Mayor of Mureteli, leadership of the ANC. I want to thank Comrade Len for having made me who I am. And I want to start by saying there's one thing that I learned from Comrade Len, and we discussed about it and we came to a conclusion about it. And that is to understand what a cadre is. So there's been all these definitions about a cadre, people quoting Che Guevara and so on and so forth. But there's one definition that we agree upon. That the privilege of a real cadre is to work in difficult conditions and die with pride. And this is the privilege that Comrade Len Rasegatla has enjoyed. He was a real cadre. I don't remember a moment where Comrade Rasegatla worked, and it was all rose. It was good, like I see elsewhere. I'm going to talk about me working with Comrade Rasegatla in the organizing department of the ANC. I was here coming as a delegate from Lusaka to the 1991 conference. Before I could go back and report to the branch in Lusaka about the outcome of that conference, I was told that I must stay behind the National Conference of Mkhonto weSizwe. Once that conference concluded, I went to Shell House to go and renew my ticket of the flight back to Lusaka. And I came across Comrade Surabkin. And then Comrade Surabkin was so excited to see me, and she said to me, "You must come and join us." And I said, "Comrade Su, I'm going back." He said, No. Everybody's coming back home. We have the responsibility of rebuilding the organization. You need to come and join the organizing department. So Comrade Surabkin was the secretary of the organizing department under Comrade Steve Chwet. I agreed. 3 days later, she took me to Isitwalan. Mary Brain was responsible for HR at Shell House. And I was required to write a CV. And I was not used to writing a CV. I wrote what we normally call a biography, not a CV. So I took a biography to Mary Brain, and then I said, "Ma'am Sophie, I don't know whether this thing suffices to be what is called a CV, but I was requested." She said, no, it's enough, my son, it's enough. As long as you're with Comrade Su, that's fine. You can start tomorrow morning. So I got a job. Comrade Su took me to an office to introduce me to comrades that I was to work with. In that small office, it was where national organizing was. I think it was the 7th floor, if I'm not mistaken. In that office, there sat this person that looked very serious behind the phone. She introduced me to Rasegatla. Comrade Len was a member of the building the ANC section. We used to call it BAS. Under building the ANC section, there was another subdivision called the rural organizing. The rural organizing, it was Ntate Nkadime, Ntate Mutsualedi, Ntate Wilton Ngwai. They were responsible for the rural section. So I was to become their driver. Another section, it was peace and stability. It was Comrade Soli Shobe, Pule, Mandla Dlamini. No, Mandla Dlamini was with campaigns. But it was a big team called organizing. So I was introduced that I'm a member of that section. That's where I met Comrade Len. So for me, program director is to talk about these activities of organizing. And I'm going to just take few of them, just to show the contribution that Comrade Len has made. I was driving Ntate Nkadime, Ntate Mutsualedi almost every weekend to Limpopo. Every week they were there. But during the week, as they are busy with issues of negotiations, the NEC issues, and with Comrade Rasegatla. So Comrade Len and I were responsible for Western Transvaal, Northern Cape, and the Free State. The Free State, it was Northern Free State and Southern Free State. So the first mission, we went to the Western Transvaal. We were intervening in the Western Transvaal. There were problems of the ANC in that region. Cut long story short, me and Comrade Len were the first to recommend the dissolution of an ANC structure. It did not come easy. We used to sit, but most of the contributions were done by Comrade Len to say there's no way that a structure of the ANC can behave this way. We went there also because the Youth League in that region has locked offices of the ANC because they were in conflict with the mother body. That was the first structure to be dissolved. Many others followed. We laid an example that if you behave in a manner that does not reflect the principles of the ANC, we can't let you to continue to do as you wish. So that structure was dissolved, replaced by a caretaker committee. In that caretaker committee, it was me, Comrade Len, and Rocky Malebane. We reported to Comrade Steve, who was supposed then to go and take this matter to the ANC working committee. But before Comrade Steve went there, he called Len. And there was a rough way in which Comrade Steve Chwede would call him. Because we had recommended that the structure must be dissolved, the National Working Committee wanted reasons. Why do we think that structure must be dissolved? So we were called back from Western Transvaal. We couldn't even arrive in the offices. Comrade Steve was already on the passage. We had to go and account why did we have to talk about dissolving that structure. But we explained, and that was done. During the negotiations, Sun City, Sun International, was to host Miss World. And the people there toyed and they blocked the street. They said there's no Miss World that can come here because Sun City is sitting on our land and they gave us nothing. So that matter reached the HQ of the ANC. Me and Comrade Len were sent to go and resolve that problem in Sun City. It took us about 3 to 4 days to resolve that matter. Because it was also taking place at a time when there was supposed to be the international cricket tournament. And there were people that were saying South Africa must not participate. So we were dealing with very dynamic issues during the time of the negotiations. Comrade Meg could explain it better than me. Why did they allow the process that international cricket competition must continue and we only put a black armband? That was a lesson enough for us to convince the people there that the Miss World beauty pageant must continue. Others will put in the book that Ginosi and Gidumeti said to me they are going to write. So we'll put more details in that book. But it's part of the contribution we went through. Comrade Meg, you came at night when you were sent to Butazwana to go and tell Mamobe not to continue government. Those unrests when they happened in Pretoria, I was working with Comrade Johannes Rasegatla with what was called the Anti-Pretoria Front and the Reincorporation Committee and so on and so forth. We were sleeping in Phuket, and Phuket was part and parcel of Pretoria. We never had cars from Datemlangi. Whenever we were sent to go and work with Comrade Len, I'm sure that car is still there. There's a red Audi 100 that Comrade Len had. We will start that Audi 100. Before we could reach anywhere, it's parked. We start hiking. We start hiking with Comrade Len. We leave it there. We leave it there, that red Audi. It will be taught. When we arrive somewhere, I know what he will do. He will call Auspingi. Tell Auspingi that, tell so and so and so to go and tow the car, we leave it there. That is part of the selflessness of Comrade Len Rasegatla. So, we will take public transport to go and work and do organizing work. We don't remember any time when the ANC booked for us in hotels during that time. We will simply go in at the ANC regional office, stay there, wait for somebody who will tell us where we are going to sleep. Now, the readiness of Comrade Len to die for this revolution, I also learned it there. Because we will go in a house that we did not know and they say this person is a comrade. Say, Len, but what will happen? We don't know this person. What he will say is that if they can do us anything in this house belonging to this person called a comrade, at least he will be exposed that is not a comrade, even if we are dead. But at least those that come after us will know that they must never trust this person again. Arzamai, let's go. We'll sleep there. So, on a lighter note, after I'm sure we shared the room with Comrade Len, because they'll just give us a room and then we shared it. But I think it's about 4 times. He came to me and said, man, Shedwood, you know, I didn't tell you that when I sleep, I snore a lot. And that is true. He said, I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but I am sure I'm bothering you. I said, don't worry anymore, Comrade Len. You snore in such a way that before I could sleep, I need that snoring. Without that snoring, I can't sleep. So it's better I sleep with you forever because that snoring helps me to sleep. It's a lullaby. Program director, bear with me. I'll give you 2 more just stories. So the Western Transvaal region decided to give Joe Modise the city of Schweiz-Reneke. So Schweiz-Reneke is an Afrikaner town. And those Afrikaners decided that never, there's no Joe Modise that is going to be given the city of Schweiz-Reneke. Me and Comrade Len had to go there and make it possible that Comrade Joe Modise is given the freedom of the city of Schweiz-Reneke. So we had to go to Schweiz-Reneke. Then there was a roadblock of this Afrikaners, AVP. We were in our beautiful Audi 100. That beautiful Audi 100, the seats were already gone. It was covered with a blanket. It was an old car, so we drove there. Arriving at the roadblock, we decided that let's not go closer to the roadblock. Let's park and walk to these people. And we parked and we walked to them. They were in those black whatever these people, and we went there. So we arrived and asked, who's the commander of this? They did not even want to hear a thing. Long story short, we negotiated. We explained to those Boers what is the meaning of Joe Modise being given the city of Swaziland. As they were arguing, some of them not agreeing, we decided to go back to the car. As we go to the car, we decided to put some long jackets. And we looked at them. One by one, they moved from the roadblock. They went into their cars. No explanation. They left. We went through. Comrade Joe Modise was given the city of Swaziland. Now, another lesson to learn from what Comrade Len was. We debated a term that comrades use, that when you are a leader, you must never work with yes men, yes men. So we had to explain this thing. What does it mean not to work, to surround yourself with yes men? What does it mean? Oh my God. Len gave an explanation. Then we were doing political education in one of the places in the Western Transvaal. He then quoted Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, an imperialist or whatever it is, says, no, I'm going to tell you. In the story of Julius Caesar, there's a part where Julius Caesar says, look at that Cassius, deep in thoughts. Such men are dangerous. It's better to have around you big-headed people like Brutus. People did not understand. He then said, who was the person who made the last straw on Julius Caesar? No, it was Brutus, the big-headed, the trustee, the yes man. So you surround yourself with yes men. They are the ones that are going to be easily bought, given the highest money, and they are the ones that are going to kill you. That's how Len explained the issue of don't surround yourself with yes men. They can't be trusted. They always tell you what you want to hear. Final part. I was with Bra Oba, ambassador. We spoke about Solomon Mahlangu. He said, Comrade Len was at one point interviewed at one of the occasions celebrating the life of Solomon Mahlangu. And me and Bra Oba said, no, but it's Solomon Mahlangu who said, my blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. So today, we are in an NGA gap. And it is in this NGA gap where we memorizing the life of a terrorist. Could it have ever happened? Imagine an NGA where Pep Botha was a member. And it is in that church where we memorize a terrorist. That's an achievement. Wouldn't that be part and parcel of the fruits of freedom? Do people know where we're coming from? These people that are talking about an ANC that did nothing that did not fight, did they understand that it is not about lining their own pocket to say ANC has done something? It's other things that have a meaning, a different meaning to the people, things that people could not enjoy, people could not do. Part of it is the fact that we are here in an MPA gap to have a service of a person who was seen as enemy number one of the state, and even taken to the lies that we are against the churches, and yet we weren't. Reverend Chikali said much more better than I can do, and that this Smanganiso Mkhatlo can say it more than I can do. So at the end of it all, we have lost the giant. It's a life that has gone too early. We were still learning a lot from Comrade Len. Before I called Comrade Milo and said, is it true that Comrade Len has passed on? He said, yes, we are here. But I said to Comrade Milo, it is just a week ago we had a 2 hours conversation on the phone. Our conversation was about the Integrity Commission. When Comrade Su was appointed in the Integrity Commission, he wanted to create that clique of organizing department. What do they call it again? Fetch of the organizing, because we work together. So he said to me, Shelut, come and join me in the Integrity Commission. Now you can be an administrator. I said, no, Comrade. The right person, I think, must come into that committee. It's Len Rasegatla. Wow! Said yes. Then Comrade Su called Len, and Len agreed. The other part that he called me about is what Milo has said. Said to me, Comrade Shelut, Su says I must come into the Integrity Commission. I said yes. Said, hey, I'm now a pensioner. Said, unfortunately, they are higher for. You are not going to get a cent then. Said, hey, what will I do? Then he reminded me that, you know, I wouldn't mind, because when we were organizers in the same Western Transvaal, we were debating remuneration of office bearers. So, as we were part of the discussion of the REC about remuneration, no, this one must earn so much, this one must earn so much. So the other person that was supposed to earn at least 2,000 rand argued that he can't get 2,000 rand. And the way he said it, it was not so good. That's why Len reminded me, because that person said, nah, any organizer here. Then me and Len says, I mean, you can't say this one of organizers, I can't earn that money. We are even earning less than that. But you are saying this money you can't earn, getting organizing. Couldn't understand. So he spoke about it when we were talking about him joining the Integrity Commission. And we were laughing about it, that you remember the person who said so. So today we are making the contribution, so there's no problem. There's no need for us to talk about the earning. Yes. So he joined the commission. So that 2 hours, I'll talk about it some other time. What we were debating about what the Integrity Commission should be doing, the powers of the Integrity Commission, what capacity that must be given to the Integrity Commission. Amongst other things, Reverend Chikani, Comrade Len was talking about the need to make sure that the Integrity Commission is capacitated the same way as your Chapter 9 institutions are. That you must get sufficient information about NALE. When there's a matter that is raised about NALE, we have people in the organization that can do enough work about how did NALE amass wealth all of a sudden. So that when that matter comes to the Integrity Commission, you have all the information that this NALE has just worked for 3 months, but now he have a double-storied house, at his house, at his hometown of Limpopo, another house in Alexandra Township, and another house in the in-laws somewhere, double stories, but he's just been working for the past 3 years. So the Integrity Commission is just confronted with information that no, there's an allegation about Nade and so on and so forth. No thorough investigation and of the background of the individual. So me and Comrade Len were talking about that capacity, and that capacity is available. You have retired generals, you have retired investigators who have been so much of a force in this government. Some of them were responsible for the establishment of the Scorpions, even the Hawks. They are retired. They are members of Mkonto Wesizwe. They are there. They can be a real resource of the African National Congress to deal with its internal problems, especially the problem of corruption. That the man that today lies here was never, he has never earned anything from these practices that we see there. One comrade said it, that he's still driving a Polo. When you visit them, and nowadays they even open 4 garages where you can see the top of the range of cars. But he was still driving a Polo. He was still driving himself as a retired general. So, program director, I thought that it would be important to put the story of Comrade Len in the actual work itself. And as you correctly said it, I deliberately took it from 1991 when we were organizers. It was me who said to Comrade Len, come and join safety and security. Why? We had a debate that it looks like we have deployed enough in the army. He was the colonel, Comrade Shoto was there, Comrade Gebuza was there. We then said, here is an area that we don't give attention to. The South African police. We need to transform the South African police service. We need to make the South African police services to be accepted back in the communities. We needed to do that. The image of the South African police service was not SAP, SAP. But we had to deal with the transformation. Me and Len participated in the interviews, starting with people that worked under General George Fivers. There were people that we interviewed and we had debates with Comrade Sidney Mufamadi for about 2 days, whether these people should be appointed or not. But we were dealing with transformation there. Comrade Len was central in that. We created the Civilian Secretariat for a purpose. We are the ones with other comrades who recommended that we must demilitarize the South African police service and stop this thing of calling them brigadiers, generals in the SAPS, because they are supposed to do civilian duties of protecting people. Well, today people will argue and say, no, call a general because the criminals are using violence. Yes, they are using violence. But we thought that we must do the South African police a civilian service, because you are dealing with people, as opposed to the manner in which the SAP was working today, in the past. So we went towards that until he was appointed the head of the National Secretariat. He was central to these issues. Even the adoption of the National Crime Prevention Strategy, we emphasized the issue of the people being part and parcel of policing themselves. You don't get that thing anywhere else except in the National Crime Prevention Strategy. The Civilian Secretariat under Johannes Rasegatla advocated and championed that. Come up with other means of making the people to police themselves, to be part and parcel of that process. Deal with crime before it occurs. Come up with societal issues that can change the mindset of people. One of the campaigns we had was that you must stop buying stolen goods. It is the campaign that we spearheaded so that we remove the market for stolen goods. Comrade Len Rasegatla has a hand in those inputs. So for me, program director, Comrade Len was a giant. Comrade Len is an unsung hero. As I said, we were with Comrade Jabu Mleketi and Comrade Geraldine Fraser Mleketi. We were interacting with the family. And we spoke to Kinosi and Itumet that it is important, Comrade Meg, that we create within the ANC possibilities that we allow people to talk about themselves. We don't always have to come when they are gone to talk about them. We must create it in such a way that people can talk about themselves. The ANC has to create that platform. Today there is adequate technology that our heroes, our heroines, must talk about themselves while they are still alive. Sidisegang Rasegatla. Auspingi bare lefu ke moyeng wa malapa otlhe. Batswana ba re tshwarang ditise. Bare kgomo molomo tshware ka thata o se kgomo nko o tshware ka thata o se re ga utlwa segodu wa kgaoga. Batswana ba re ya tshwara o tise re teng ga re tshabe rona ba bangwe gore the African National Congress is there. We know what we mean. We talk about the African National Congress that has contested elections. We're optimistic. The good results we want is the win. And we will remain in the ANC because of people like Comrade Len Rasegatla. We mean it when we say his spear has fallen, we will pick it up. We will not do like others who at some point said the same thing and today they stole the legacy of Len Rasegatla for their own selfish interest and created something else. Yet they've been at funerals of many of the Len Rasegatlas and they lied to the people and they said they will pick up the spear of those martyrs. But instead of picking up that spear and continue with the goals of those martyrs, they've created certain things that we don't know today.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sherwood. When Comrade Len left Northwest, again he was directed. The then President Mbeki and the Steve Sweat ordered that we should go and get land out of Northwest. I'm happy to present to you the man that when Lieutenant General Rasegatla became the National Secretariat of the Police Service, he worked, and I'm using the word he worked. He did not like saying people are working for me. He worked with Dr. Solomon Maila. And Dr. Solomon Maila was a senior executive assistant in a civilian secretariat. which meant that when he left Comrade Sherwood and he has to start now being at the center of the South African Police Service and to build what we see today, it is necessary for us to call on those that work with him to say a few words. Gentlemen. Program Director, the Rasegatla and Mori family in the completeness of its genealogy. Current and former ministers and deputy ministers here present. I have also seen, of course, like everybody else, Ndade Meg Maharaj, about whom I was told so much by Ralen. I have also seen Deputy Minister Tabam Makwetla, Yautama Wanamhalakwe, Gawar Naloena, Ruahoshi Holo Sukuni. I have also seen the Reverend Dr. Frank Chigani, Murutuaka Ugimaratang, Kamele Pililmoya, about whom I was also told a great deal by Ralen. Mutswari wa rena ka moka, our mother, Me Sophie DeBrain, le o mongwe motswari e le go Father Mkhatshwa, ke a le dumedisa. Ke bone General Shoke o ke mo file go tlhompho ka moka eo e mo tshwanetsego. Jwale ka molaodi pharephare wa sešole sa naga. Commissioned and non-commissioned officers of the South African National Defence Force, as well as the South African Police Service, the leadership of the Civilian Secretariat for the Police Service, and the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, the leadership of the Church, fellow mourners, greetings and salutations. I met General Malekolle, Johannes Rasegatla shortly after his appointment as the National Secretary for Safety and Security, or the Secretary of Police,
in the second half of the year 2000. This was a little over a year after the election of Thabo Mbeki as President of the Republic, following the second democratic elections held on the 2nd of June 1999. As some among us, especially the Reverend Dr. Ratjiepane may recall, President Mbeki appointed the late Steve Church as the Minister of Police, then called Safety and Security. Minister Church then appointed Bralen as the National Secretary for Safety and Security and thus the Principal Policy Advisor to the Minister. Bralen succeeded Mr. Rasegatla, who had served as the first National Secretary for Safety and Security under the leadership of Dr. Sidney Mufamadi, who was President Nelson Mandela's first Minister of Safety and Security in the first administration between 1994 and 1999. I was an assistant director, which is the equivalent of a lieutenant colonel, responsible for community police relations in the Gauteng Department of Safety and Security, later renamed to the Department of Community Safety. So as Minister Chwete and the National Secretary interacted with us in the provinces, they developed a professional interest in me. Even though I had always believed that I was very handsome, I think they just liked the fact that I was part of the very first team that established the Gauteng Department of Safety and Security under the political leadership of the late Jesse Duarte, who was appointed by Tokyo Sokole, the first Premier of Gauteng, as the first member of the Executive Council responsible for policing in Gauteng. A couple of months later, they started talking to me and Nomvula Mkonyane, who was serving as my political head at the time, having taken over from Paul Mashatile as MEC for safety and security in Gauteng. In the end, I was then appointed by Utangana, Steve Chwete, as the Executive Assistant to the National Secretary for Safety and Security and served as Bralen's Office Manager until my return to the Gauteng Provincial Government after my appointment by Feroz Kachalia, now Professor Kachalia, as the Director responsible for police performance monitoring and evaluation. Unlike Comrade Sherwood Mujale-Fanale, I went through a process before I was appointed. Since I have known Bralen for a solid 24 years, there are so many things I can tell you about this extraordinary South African. But in the interest of time, I beg of you to please allow me to talk only about his unflinching value of humility. The English lexicon defines humility as the quality of having a modest or low view of one's own importance. There are those who would argue that humility is the solid foundation of all human virtues. It was Rabindranath Tagore, a Bengali poet and philosopher, who in the year 1913 became the first non-European to win the Nobel Prize in Literature, who told us that we come nearest to the great when we are great in humility. As you can see from where you are seated, even without the aid of spectacles, I have been around. I have interacted with so many people, both here at home and internationally, but I have never seen the kind of humility that Bralen embodied. When it was first established or created by the Mandela administration, the position of National Secretary for Safety and Security was at the level of Superintendent General. That is the equivalent of a Director General. It is on level 16, which makes it the highest administrative position in the public service. In other words, you cannot go higher than the position of Director General in the public service. So as part of his salary package, he had a substantial car allowance. It was obligatory for him to buy a decent motor car following his appointment as the National Secretary for Safety and Security. But Bralen reluctantly bought a very beautiful Mercedes-Benz E280, midnight blue in color. His humility, however, his down-to-earth modesty, could not allow him to enjoy this breathtaking luxury German machine. For the most part, Bralen just parked it at police headquarters here in Pretoria. Instead, and now we know why, he went and found himself an old, previously abused Toyota Corolla, red in color, just like the red Audi 100, and without wheel caps. He used this red Toyota Corolla for his daily commute. Now, I am young at the time. Material possessions, opulence, and a sense of importance matter to me. But Bralen would have none of it. He couldn't even take the time to just go through the manual to help him better appreciate what the Germans had in mind when they conceptualized the E-class. Because he was a student at the University of the Northwest, despite the hectic nature of his work schedule, and perhaps because of my constant nagging about the E-class that was parked at police headquarters, He drove this E-class one day to Mafikeng to sit for his exams. He was due to return to Meerdale in Johannesburg on the Saturday after his last paper the previous day. Since he had never familiarized himself with the manual, he locked the car keys in the boot and he didn't know what to do. Instead of just calling Mercedes-Benz roadside assistance, as the manual said, he called me in Benoni where I lived and asked me to go to his home in Meerdale to get the spare keys in his bedroom and then to travel all the way to Mahikeng. I did it. There is absolutely nothing I wouldn't do for this man. We would sit in the office almost every day until the early hours of the morning, mostly talking about his conceptualization of police oversight more broadly, but the threat that serious and violent crime poses to our national security in particular, especially in an atmosphere where institutions of police oversight and democratic accountability seem to be deliberately weakened. He would do most of the talking because he heard a word or he had a way with words. In case you didn't know, Ralan was an Englishman and he took his time. As I conclude, let me state that I've learned so much from Ralan. I learned from him that material earthly possessions cannot make you what you are not. When a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become king. The palace just becomes a circus. I also learned that no man on earth has ever succeeded in keeping a good man down forever. I have seen over the years how he was treated. But in the end, he served on the Integrity Committee, which is a subcommittee of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, because he was indeed a man of unparalleled integrity. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, I learned from his example that some of those who were truly created in the image of God are not found in church. To you, O Speaker, I know how much you loved your husband, but I also know how strong you are because of your faith. I know that you know he's now counted amongst the most trusted angels in the heavens above. To the children, especially Ginosi, ke a tseba ka segagesho gore motho ga orwe. O mongwe a ka no re tatagolela o sepetše ka pela, empa matšatši a rena ka moka a badilwe. Lena
ke nosi ikareng le ke itumetse le ba mahlatse ka gore mogalajwe o sepela a lenyadišitše ka moka ge kgoši Tafita a bona gore matšatši a gagwe a go phela a batametše le tla sebela ntate Mek Maharaj ka gore mo nna ke ngwadile ka Sepedi ge kgoši Tafita a bona gore matšatši a gagwe a go phela a fihlile mafelelong o bitša morwa wa gagwe Solomon ke mo ke tšerego leina le o a lebanego ke setulo sa bogoši ke kgolwa gore ke no se go bona ka ga a fihla go mogalajwe kgoši Tafita o botša morwa wa gagwe Solomon o dula fase ngwanaka o a dula o re ngwanaka nna jwale tša kua ke ya go dikgogo ge di lla ke ya dikwa empa o se ke wa tšhoga ngwana wa ka ke sepela ka tsela ya bohle ba lefase tia maatla o eme senna tia maatla o eme senna ke nosi o tsebe gore le hono ge re tloga mo goba ge re fetša tše re ile go di dira ka Ratjiepane ka Mokibelo wena ga o sa tlo bitšwa ke nosi o tlo bitšwa Rasegatla ka baka la gore go tloga Mokibelo o fetoga tatago ke itumetse le ikareng ge le ile maitišong le itiša le nwa majwala a le a matšatši a ke kwele batho ba bolela re le kae ka dikopanong tša ANC ke ba botša ka jwala jo bebeng bo rata ke tatago ba rata JNB nna ga ke no jwala tatago o ba rata jwala jwa JNB ba mpotšiša ba nteboga tšatši le lengwe ke ba diregisela le sela ba re na wena maila o nwang jwale ke gopola JNB ela e nwang ke mogalane ke a ba botša ke re bana nna ke nwa JNB namile ba ra wena o nwa majwala a gale rena in the ANC ga re sa nwa majwala ao a di JNB le di Paul's brandy re nwa la Kavolen jwale ke nosi ge le itišitše mo le itišitšego ngwanaka le nwa di la Kavolen tše di newago medirong ya ANC o se lebale mokgekolo o tsebe gore jwale ge mogalajwe a sepetše mokgekolo o tlo no dula a boifa le ge dikatse di bapala ka mo ntle di goelana yena o tlo tlelwa ke boifo o fele o ya o ile o hlola mokgekolo o hlola le bana ba mogalajwe. Just like I directed all of your wedding programs, I will continue to be there in your lives for as long as you want me there. Please draw your solace and comfort from knowing that your father served his country with absolute distinction. He returns to his Maker unblemished. He never stole a cent. There are those who owe him an apology, but he owes no one. In the fullness of time, and when this dust has completely settled, I will tell you what they did to him and who did it. I will also schedule an appointment with the Reverend Dr. Ratjiepane, who was Soweto ka Rudula Hausulella. Ke Johannesburg South, ke tlo ya Tipkloof ko bona moruti, ke dule le yena, ke mmotse ke re moruti tla go botsa ditaba tše ba di dirile go Ntate Rasegatla, ke be ke mmotse ka re yena ke moruti o go tseba di-confession, ke mmotse le gore ke bomang bao ba mo dirilego se le sela. Fare thee well, Brother, till we meet again on the other side. I know I will never have a mentor like you. That's why I named my own son after you. May your beautiful soul find the peace that is eternal and the tranquility that endures. I thank you. Hayo matata, hayo matata, hayo matata, hayo. All power. We are very honored that Stalwandwe Maruna Siabarangwe, and many amongst us might not understand the significance of this honorous title recognition when is given to the one amongst us. What does it mean? Safe to say, as we call on Mama Sophie de Bruyn, we are reminded by the then President of the African National Congress, Oliver Reginald Tambo, popularly known as Organized Revolutionary Takeover, when he defined a revolutionary cadre. He defined revolutionary cadre as one amongst us who is demonstrating exceptional discipline, one amongst us who has dedication, and one amongst us who has courage. I am sure as we ask Mama to ascend the stage, we are going to ask ourselves, those who met with land, you would know that Len's dedication, Len's courage, and Len's discipline makes him one of the very few unknown combatant of the African National Congress military wing. Mama, you may ascend.
Thank you, Program Director. And I wish to greet our Chief Mourner and the Ratjiepane family. And I want to say all protocol observed. I'm standing here before you as a member of the Commission of Integrity, of which Comrade Len was one of us. And I'm also here, I see my chairperson, or our chairperson of the Integrity Commission is also here, and one of our commissioners, Father M, as I normally call him. And so I want to say that the tribute that I'm going to present here is not my own. It is a tribute that was drafted and crafted by Comrade Sue Ratjiepane, who was very close to Comrade Len, as you heard in some of the presentations that were made here today. So I'm in the same boat as our Ricky, who has to read her husband's tribute. So I'm going to begin by saying that Comrade Sue says in her tribute, or rather she has named it, a tribute to an extraordinary cadre of the African National Congress. And she says here that she first met Comrade Len in Maputo, in Mozambique. And she says she thinks that it was in 1979 and that it was quite late in the day and that it was dropping, and she was dropping Comrade Kebuza, General Sikwe Nyanda. She was dropping him off at the Transvaal Urban MK residence in Malekolle. They, she says, were chatting, she and Comrade Len in the car, when she saw in the rear view mirror a drunk staggering towards them on a long, empty, quite poorly lit street. And the drunk then fell over the car that they were in. Comrades were alert. Apparently, she says, was the commander in danger. Len had seen the car pull up and dispatched Comrade Viva to act as a drunk to check if Comrade Kebuza was okay, since he was with a white woman. So Comrade Len was suspicious and came out to check what was going on. And that is how she says she first met Comrade Len. And this was the period of our struggle, she says, when the Green Book was adopted as our lodestar for the seizure of power and armed insurrection. And the central idea of the Green Book was that an armed seizure of power would only truly succeed if it was led by and grounded in mass political struggle. And she says that ours was not a military struggle, but a political one. and that the resultant major shift in strategy that was adopted reinforced the primacy of political over military. Emerging from the Green Book was a strategy of the 4 pillars of the struggle. And the 4 pillars were mass mobilization, the building of the underground, the armed struggle, and international solidarity. And the 4 pillars were interconnected and harmonized. The strategy of the 4 pillars, which successfully led to the defeat of the apartheid regime, guided them. So the strategy was captured in the slogan, between the angle of united mass action and the hammer of the armed struggle. And we shall crush apartheid and white minority racist rule. So the emphasis on different pillars at different times changed from one or other pillars, and according to the situation on the ground, necessitated a sophisticated understanding by members of the different operational machineries charged with secret work inside the country, referred to as internal work. So the Operation MK structures were largely based in what was referred to as forward areas. The countries that bordered our own, and the internal work was divided up into specialities. There was the political machinery charged with creating a political underground inside South Africa to give MK units a secure base from which to operate from. There were intelligence units, logistic units, and SATU units. Comrade leading the military machinery, and myself, says Comrade Sue, in the political machinery, were immersed in this very important shift in strategy. These different specialized structures were not supposed to interact with each other for security reasons. Members falling under the political committee and members falling under the military command thus acted independently of each other. The enemy was watching us, she says, and had planted its agents inside our structures, and safety measures had to be taken. And so the leadership limited their interaction between the different internal machineries, planning and cross-fertilization of ideas was to be done at the leadership level, the political military committee, abbreviated PMC, and it was based in Lusaka, wherein all specialized functions were represented. But at the same time, there was some acknowledgement by the leadership that interaction at a lower level in the different forward areas was very important. whilst the right hand did not have to know any of the details or the plans of the work of the left hand. Both needed to be on the same page and to ensure that we were going in the forward areas. There were regional political military committee. In short, it was RPMCs. In Mozambique, the RPMCs was headed by Comrade Johan Kadiman, from the political, and Joe Slow from the military. So after much petitioning and agitation from us in the lower ranks, the RPMC reluctantly gave permission to the internal political machinery to host political discussions for all the internal machineries. So Comrade Len, along with other leading members of the MK structures, came to the internal house, the HQ of the political machinery in Maputo, on a Tuesday evening for political discussions. Was the Freedom Charter a social document? How should we redistribute wealth in South Africa? How can we ensure the equality of women? What is political education and why is it important? These were but a few topics debated in this Tuesday evening discussion. What was to become a lifelong comradeship and friendship with Len was born from those discussions, says Comrade Sue. And they continued way beyond Tuesday evenings. As an example, Comrade Len and I together, she says, drafted a pamphlet called Conversations with the Communist. The pamphlet was distributed inside South Africa by one of the MK units. Comrade Len moved between Maputo and Swaziland, ultimately successfully infiltrated into what is now called Gauteng as a commander of a unit called G5. Comrade Kebuza and Comrade Solly have spoken extensively and will speak on G5. To this day, I still do not know the details of their work. When the ANC was legalized in 1990, and the ANC set up the organizing department, as we heard from the comrade who spoke earlier, set up under Comrade Steve Schwetter. Comrade Len was brought in and worked with them in the organizing department to build a legal ANC that would win the first democratic elections in 1994. And as you heard and will hear, Comrade Len then went on to serve in the Northwest under Comrade Popo Molefe, and later in the South, first under Comrade Steve Schwetter. After Comrade Len's retirement, he was appointed to the Integrity Commission, wherein he served until his passing. What a record, she says, she had sketched. And we in the Integrity Commission bear witness to the kind of person, the cadre, how he demonstrated his leadership. Comrade Len, as it was already said before, was a very humble person. And I found him to be a very patient person. Sometimes people get irritated because he's a bit too slow. But his slowness was a deception. It was a strength. He was patient and listened and gave direction many times. Comrade Len never cared whether the rest of the house was against what he said. And he stood up for his principles. That is the Comrade Len that I remember. I did not know Comrade Len that much before, although I was also 2 and more decades in Lusaka, in exile. I only learned about Comrade Len when he was in shell house. But still I didn't know his depth, his convictions, and for what he stood for. And I'm privileged today to have heard his history, his character, and I feel proud that he's touched my life. And that I can say, once upon a time I worked with this extraordinary person, Comrade Len Rasegatla. How would I describe Len, says Comrade Sue Redmond? She says Len would say about himself that he was an ordinary cadre of the ANC and of Umkhonto Wesizwe, always modest, disciplined, valuing and respecting the collective, always recognizing leadership. But I would say that he was an extraordinary cadre because of those very same qualities in war, says Comrade Sue. Though he respected leadership, he always also had the courage to put forward his ideas and views, however different those were from the general consensus. Len was a man of principle. Maybe he was born having internalized the core values of the ANC. Maybe he acquired them as he went through life. But for him, principle, integrity, honesty, and truth were the daily indicators of what was right and what was wrong. Len had always been highly regarded for his deep and profound political understanding and strategic thinking. But what made him into such an exceptional revolutionary was the way in which he applied those principles to everyday political life and everyday political problems. He understood that central at all times was that the organization must never lose contact with its base. So the application of those ANC core values, our current reality often means that we are at odds with how the organization is dealing with problems. Len was always able to see the bigger picture, to contextualize and successfully locate specific problems and their root cause. Yes, unity is paramount, but not at the expense of the core values of our organization. Unity has to be principled. Yes, non-racism is an overriding principle, but narrow white interests have to be identified and rejected. Yes, tribalism is unacceptable, but pride of one's own culture and cultural identity is vital in the development of a nation united in its diversity. And yes, we have achieved democracy, but for the provisions of the Constitution to be achieved, our democracy has to be participatory. And like many in the ranks of MK, Comrade Lem was essentially a political cadre who had been deployed in the military, and members of MK received both military and extensive political training. MK was a political army. His love of MK stemmed from his understanding of the nature of our struggle and the proud role of the People's Army. And so Comrade Sue says that she spoke a lot about the 4 pillars and the Green Book earlier, because Lem took those broad principles and applied it to all his military work. So subsequent divisions inside MK, which we are slowly realizing was the work of the enemy and were very painful for Lem. And he spent hours trying to solve those differences. He was a soldier, but he was never a militarist. Lem probed the mistakes that we have made in the last 30 years. Perhaps those mistakes had their origins during the period of the armed struggle. Perhaps they came before, but our march forward, Len was very clear that the key guide is at all times a deep and clear understanding of our Constitution, whose origins came and are derived from the Freedom Charter. So it is a deep commitment to our Constitution that distinguishes us from all other political formations. Our adherence to human rights and to equality is yet another terrain of struggle. So, in ending, Comrade Sue Rapkin says, Lala Volotso, Comrade Len, Samaya, Sentle, dear comrade, we will miss you. Comrade Sue Rapkin. Thank you. Thank you, Co-Director.
Thank you very much, Sikolando. Siaparangwe. Tlotlo e kgolo go di gaisa tsotlhe e yuang baeteledipele le baetapele le bao ba ba tseileng karolo mo go lweleng tokologo le setšhaba sa rona. It is my singular honor to ask Pinky, when you said that we need to get General Nyanda, when you said get Kebuza and Soli, I must say that from the first day to date, it is for the first time I command my commanders, because they know that it's not me who's talking. So, General Shoke, your brother, your comrade, your fellow student, your fighter is no more. Now we can't say much about him without you now giving us the picture. Other than Comrade General Shoke, as he comes, he actually worked in that organizing department. And we were a bit surprised when he went to the defense, because the first person to actually deal with the SAPS in the Katoras on day-to-day basis and interact with the police on day-to-day basis was the team of General Shoke with Minister Mafumati. But 1993 he disappeared and they emerged in Zimbabwe with General Rasegatla. Now he has spent more time with General Rasegatla. He is going to unpack for us a man that we call a man without a face. Comrade Taban, from 1979, I know that 77 to 79 he was getting in and out. But from 1979 he said, because after every operation, everyone else was supposed to go back to the rear base. And he says, and not speak, we need to get that letter, because he said he wrote it. He says to Comrade Kebuza, I'm not going to send these fellows back because Mozambique is too far. For us, we are sent inside the country, and for us is to operate inside the country. We will survive. And one of the people who actually survived in the country was General Shoke. It's my pleasure, sir, to call on you.
Director, Milo, I would like to start by thanking you for having responded actually to the Rasegatla family. Because I remember you called me, I think in the early 20, and I was in the Northwest. And then when you told me that Glenn passed on, we were also grappling with the bereavement in the family. We had lost our cousin brother. But then I requested you to also consult Kebuza in Maputo. And we requested you that we should work with Upingi. And whatever they do, take cue from them, and you did exactly that. And for that, I would like to say we are very grateful. La Rasegatla, la Hamore, ke rata gore mo go lona go motsega re latlhagetswe ba botlhe
Len was my comrade and my brother, and I shared trenches with him during difficult times. But we also had some fun moments within difficulties. Some, in fact, they sound like James Bond films. But maybe let me start by also now clarifying the Transvaal urban machinery vis-a-vis the G5. G5 was a unit that was operating under the command of the Transvaal urban machinery. Transvaal urban machinery, of which Len was part of it. The first commander there, it was Tokyo then, but in Tokyo they got arrested. Then Sly Ramos and Kepuza, General Nyanda took over from Sly Ramos, and together with Len and others actually they were part of the command structure. They were operating from Maputo and Swaziland. We were the foot soldiers. And the G5, actually, the reason why how it came to be G5, it was called the Group of Five. Initially, we were 5, and then one of us committed suicide, and we remained 4 in Mozambique. I think committed suicide. It was in 1978, if my memory serves me well. The commander of the G5 was the late Nsizo from Alexander Nikki, and I was the commissar, and there was Marcus Montau and Tele Mahoro. May their souls rest in peace. So, in 1979, after actually we've been having debates that our people inside the country don't last, because our people were so much afraid of the police that as soon as they see you, they report you to the police and people get arrested. And then we debated that, but that these hobos who live in the streets and they survive and so on. So if we can also, if we live in the bushes or whatever, we can also survive like hobos, but decent hobos, with the aim in fact of liberating our people from fear of the police. We conducted reconnaissance. I remember before the freeways were done around Soweto there, we started from a Fox Road to a man dump underneath a scrap car, and to a mine, a dump where now the Zamazamas are mining gold, and that's where we were living. How now it is, because at that point in time, the leadership was also not comfortable with the type of operations that we were going to conduct. And actually, there was even a debate whether they should undertake such operations or not, because they were not sure about the action of the police after such operations have been conducted. But then at that level, at the command level, they decided that they should send Len also to come in. It is Len who gave us the material for some of the operations that were conducted. But because we were close to one another, We knew each other even before we came in the country with him, because it became easy, I can say, for us to click. And then the first operations were conducted very successfully. I'm sure everybody knows what we're talking about. Okay, in any way, it's no longer seen, it was Morocco. After the execution of Esfon Massan. And then as we were operating, the bondage became so strong that our relationship now was more based on trust. Actually, there came a moment where we had now even to violate one of the process of secrecy, where we had to reveal to one another who we are, where we are coming from, because we were not even sure that if anything happened, your family will know. So when I came from the proof, Len was from Ratjiepane, Mzizwa from Alexander, Marcus from the proof, Lele from Fosterers. And then we even disclosed that should anything happen, who to contact within the families, because exile was too far. And indeed, we survived. And Len, being what he is, he led by example. Because in some of the operations, he participated. And yet, in fact, was not a member of the unit. I remember one operation that, in fact, was conducted. When we retreated, in fact, we didn't take the route that was planned. But we went inside to the township, and then he got a shock of his life when we commanded to get to a pipe. And he couldn't believe that actually it can fit in that pipe, and he just said, go in. He went in, and then through that pipe, we went out of the township, outside the city, and then we met. He was also shocked that the Telemachorani was waiting for us, and then we retreated to a base comfortably. He stayed with us, and many other operations that he participated in. I'd like to say also to the family, the Rasegatla family is not a family that used to buy Shakesi food, but they participated a lot in the struggle. They helped us a lot. I heard Sarah talking about people who were coming in, working for Paco, living at night, in fact, then coming in there, they say, in the morning. Yes, indeed, and it was his father, the elder brother to Len Obrahim, who actually introduced us to the areas like Bomota and Ratjiepane. And that's how we started gaining ground in that area of Ratjiepane. But the funny thing about Len, the way he was so disciplined. As much as he's the one who introduced us to his brother, who made it possible for us actually not to penetrate the community in those areas. There was an incident where actually we were surrounded by the cops, and Marcus was shot, Mutaung was shot in Stenvata. And then I had to rush to Ratjiepane. And when I arrived there, well, I was in a mess because my clothes and all, in fact, the trees, the northwest got throwing bombs.
I was just scratches all over the body. And then because I knew where Len was, and Marcus was shot, I was not sure whether he's dead or arrested. Then I told Len's brother, please, go to Orlando, to this address. And then when you get there, you must look for George. And then when you get George, tell him that things are bad. Because I was not sure that if I'm arrested, whether I'll break or not. Okay, the brother did that. No problem. Okay, the area was surrounded for quite some time. Okay, the elder brother of the then, Robert, one morning made a reconnaissance. The roadblocks were off. Then I went out of Pretoria to Soweto. And then I went to his Mukuku. We had his Mukuku there, where he was staying with the teacher. It was a funny thing, but the teacher gave us good cover in that Mukuku because they could see the teacher going to school and coming back and doing washing. So when I arrived there, okay, I meet with him. The first thing that he nearly asked me, why did you send my brother to come here? I said, but then, how do you expect me to make you survive? Because I'm already in danger. So at least your brother knows that you are an activist, and I'm an activist, and he has been keeping us in Ratjiepane. But he said, now, when he comes here now, he's going to expose me. I said, Glenn, things are bad, you are exposed, you are on the run now. But he could not understand that. But, Glenn is one of the few people who survived in this country underground, but yet semi-legal. Semi-legal in the sense that he was not unlike us, who had to move at night because we are afraid that people will recognize you. He had a construction company, he was building houses, and that cover gave him that good cover to a point where he even got married. And to many people, he was a normal civilian, but yet an underground operative. And that showed the discipline in a person and the commitment that he had and the love that he had for this country and its people. When we came back, or not even when we came back, because I never came back to South Africa. You all found us here inside the country. When I came out of cover, I made contact with them again. And then now there was a challenge. If I put it in Sesotho, I remember. I was not going to say anything. So they had to come out a delegation now that we had to go and explain that this Marobela is a Rasegatla. He was Marobela because of the duties that he had to do for the liberation of our country. Now he was getting out of cover. But in any way, the Mores were so kind to accept that now this Marobela is Rasegatla, the Israeli is Rasegatla. They became a family. And I think they were taken to Ratjiepane, where they knew Ratjiepane. I don't know whether the kids have now changed their surnames, whether they're still Marobela or they are Rasegatlas. Because, in my family, During those days of apartheid, we had an auntie who was a Mackenzie. One of my brothers, cousin brothers, was light in complexion. He decided to become Basi Mackenzie. Then he married in Clesbridge West. Even today now, the kids are the Mackenzies. The same name has not been changed. And then, but there are also funny moments that I had with them. You know, I had Sherwood talking about the snoring of Len. I remember one time in Maputo, he was snoring so hard that actually we saw people outside. As he was snoring, he said, "Tenyo makako aki." Tenyo makako aki. As they said, "Tenyo makako aki," and that was supposed to be an underground house. They were coming out to see the macaco that is snoring. Macaco is a monkey. And we didn't want people to come and see, to know where we are. But anyway, it was one of those funny moments. And then even, you know, I don't know if you have noticed, this ping pong here. And then how he got it. It is also one of the funny moments. We planned an ambush. The target did not come. For 3 days, we were not sleeping. Calling for the target is not coming in. We stay somewhere there outside, we hang around during the day. At night, we wait for it to go to an ambush. The target is not coming. Day 4, we said, guys, this is not going to work. We take the rifles, we put them in the marshes, we hide them there. As we are walking now, there's this hut where people, what they call it, for initiation, the courses, people, they do that in the township. So now we're looking, the hut is empty. I will say, no, rather for us to sleep there in the bush, let's just go into the hut. Little did we know that the people will be coming. And then because now land is snoring, we will just say, someone say, hey, no. Then it was trouble. The entrance is so small that you've got to crawl. So I crawled out, and then, as in fact they were going for me, they saw that they was trying to get out. Then it became a problem. They moved in foot. And that's why he sustained the ping pong. But at that time, they were still inside the country, and they were part of the units that we were working with. And then he was able to go to location, and they assisted him. And up to date, he's still alive. But that really cost me as well, because when I called for reinforcement and went to where the incident happened, that head were bent and people were nowhere. I didn't even know where land was. So now my comrades were asking me, how are we going to account? I said, but account for what? I don't know. It's bad news. Until he rocked up at our dugout. Because those days, really, as some people have said, it was not fashionable to be associated with the ANC. And the West, in fact, it is okay. But like I said, that our relationship was so much based on trust that actually, even when that incident happened of Marcus Makaun, who also knew where Len was, he did not shift. He stayed where he was until actually the people were executed because we had confidence in one another. We trusted one another. We learned you could sleep with all your eyes closed, not looking at your back, because you knew that you've got a comrade who was loyal, whom you can trust, and who was dedicated for the liberation of this country. The liberation of the freedom that today some actually do not appreciate. They tend to forget where we're coming from. Yesterday, we had the elections, people who came in their numbers, but what you could see from our media and the comments that some of our youth were making, it requires an introspection on the side of the ruling party. We need not to look inward, and we should ask ourselves, what is it that we're doing wrong? Because, people who don't know where they're coming from, it's going to be difficult for them to determine their destiny. And that is why they can afford to make some of the comments that they are making. And you cannot claim to be born free if your father or your mother is still living in the Muku, is still living in a 4-room house where you were born and you say you are born free. You cannot say you are born free if you cannot compete freely with people of other races who have privileges and you are starting from scratch. But we have failed as a government to teach not only our kids but our people. Because I was shocked, so shocked, that here today in South Africa, history is not taught at schools. Because you first have to know yourself as a person, who you are, where your roots are, where you're coming from, but also as a country and as people. We should know our history. Because our people, because some of them, they've just got freedom on a plaque, and hence they don't appreciate it. They cannot even defend it jealously. Anybody can come and convince them, and if we go with the wind. It is sad. And to me, what's happening is that sometimes now, it's like now was actually swearing people of the caliber of Len, who for the entire youth and adult life working tirelessly to ensure that we are free. And then the thinking that we give them is something else. The issue of factionalism within our own ranks. As we look inward, it is something that we also have to deal seriously with it. We can have different ideas, different opinions, but let us not factionalize this movement. We love it and want to see it succeed. It can only succeed if we are committed to ensure that we serve our people, not on a factional basis, but based on the principles and policies of the ANC. So coming back to Johannes Rasegatla, I saw in the obituary that mine has been prepared, that is a leader without a face. That's very much true. Land will always be behind, but you will generate ideas. And to someone who was a deep thinker, you might perceive him as someone who is very slow, but you always give him a chance. And he will listen to you attentively. And sometimes you think that he's sleeping, but once he opens up his eyes, it is something else. So I would like to say to the family of Rasegatla, take solace from the fact that his body might not be there, but the ideals that he cherished will live forever. You know, the former commissar of Mkonto Wesizwe, the late General Mason, used to say, revolutionaries don't die. It's only traitors who die. By their deeds, some of the people in the East, or communists, they will always say, by their deeds, they shall be identified. Mesebetsi ya hae e metle re tla mo gopola ka yona. Go molega go botlhoko a go mo nna fela le rona ba re berekileng lena. I've known this man for years. Ke bua ka lena, but if I might tell you ukuthi ngikhe phezulu, because if I talk about the land, it will take days. If now I talk pound by pound, what happened here, what have you, because I know him also, Lego Polo, maybe there's a funny story that the composer used to say, we used to play soccer those days in Mozambique when we go for rest. But Len was not a good soccer player. So the composer used to say to him, Len, use your right leg. Because they said he had two left legs. The left leg and the right left leg. So the way Bolo use the right left leg now. Because now you will just fall instead of kicking the ball. But those were the funny moments that we had with him. And I will forever remember him. I think General Nyanda, I saw that he's in the program. I'm sure he will fill up some of the things that I missed on, but really, he was a man. Nele munna nele sakhamka. My Lord carried back on the book. Ikhile bodimo. Kita ikwala mla ka bona la tsama.
Thank you very much, General. Fellow Monas leadership that is with us, we are now facing a critical time, and one has to make a decision. The sun will finally settle at 1847, meaning that we need to now release the chief mourner. But I'm directed to say two things. The funeral is taking place at Ratjiepane. The service starts at 8 o'clock at Ratjiepane Kogai. Secondly, as we release the chief mourner Auspinki to return home before 1747, we will be, well, it will not be for the last time, we will also, Bralen will be talking to you as we give way to the family to live with us. We want to thank you for your participation, for your attendance. We take that it is not the end. As General said, Marcus Wolf was one of the renowned intelligent officer, operator, supervisor, head of the main directorates of Stasi, or the German intelligence. The rest of the world knew him as a man without face because they interacted, they never understood or know who was the head of, who was Maka Wolf or Mishka. Our Mishka is Bralen. Those who operated with him, those who worked with him, they would know that in each and every operation he was there, but the entire establishment of the apartheid machinery, they will always miss him. And his effectiveness was such that even those in the movement did not know who Len was, did not believe the things that were said about Len. In those few, as we play the last time he's talking, what O.R. said, he was a guest of the Deputy Minister at the gallows in honor of Solomon Mathang. Maras Khatha, we are also happy to be joined today by the Mathangu family. The Telle Mokwerane have sent their condolences, they have sent their message. The units that he operated with in Soweto have prepared their statement. We would want to say all of them, with your permission, all will be read on Saturday in honor of all of those teams and units and soldiers that he worked with. The last point I would say, General Shoke touched it. Very strange enough, he's going to repeat it here. He will meet with all of those that need to enter into the country. I thought General Shoke was going to mention the rationale of G5. It was because of the boldness of decision that was made, led by General Rasegatla, to say, we are no longer sending one soldier at a time. We have tested 2, we have actually tested 3. We are now sending a full unit of 5 inside the country to demonstrate the readiness of Mkhonto Wesizwe to now do battle inside the country. And he did exactly that. Thank you very much. Let's listen to Bralen as Auspinki and family take this.
For me to have been associated with this gallant fight of the South African Revolution, General Spiwe Nyanda, immediately after receiving Solomon Mahlangu and his two colleagues, handed them over to me to prepare them politically for the task that they were supposed to do inside the country. Militarily, they were already trained. So the 2 weeks, every day, for the whole day, after exercises and breakfast, I had to be with them, going throughout all the experiences of our struggle thus far, with a view of contextualizing and making sure that they have a clear grasp of what is to be done. It was an honor and privilege, especially with hindsight. When you look at Solomon Mahlangu at the time, you were just seeing an ordinary cadre of the African National Congress. During our discussions, our debate, our political discussion, throughout the 2 weeks, Solomon Mahlangu was just a very disciplined, good listener. We used to go through freedom struggles of the past with a view of contextualizing our struggle and to try and learn from the past as to how, not only in South Africa, but other countries, how did they use to mobilize both their soldiers and their people to forge ahead. Now, it was within this context that, among other things, I referred them to what Manzini said during the liberation of Italy in terms of European history that we were taught, though even under Bantu education. When Manzini said to his troops, as a commander, as a general, that the tree of liberty grows stronger when watered with the blood of the martyr, and the dagger of the assassin grows more deadly when sharpened on the tombstone of the martyr. Solomon Mahlangu liked this thing. He even requested me to repeat it. Now, when he was hanged, this message that he left for the entire South African people, that he loves us all and that we must continue the struggle, to this day, I started seeing Solomon Mahlangu much more differently than I have experienced him. I did not know that this cadre of Umkhonto Wesizwe is a royal and I'm a commoner. I was leading my leadership, and he has never even shown that he's from the royal blood. He was disciplined, committed, and dedicated. Now, royals, traditionally, in the history of black people, they are born leaders. I think Solomon Mahlangu represented, first and foremost, the royal, his family, and the royal family he belonged to. He demonstrated what leadership is. He demonstrated what volunteerism means. At that time, one thought he was dealing with an ordinary cadre of the ANC. But at the end, and one can add that the African National Congress talk about a selfless struggle that the people of South Africa undertook for this freedom that we enjoy today. And it is through the sacrifices of volunteers like Solomon Mahlangu that the traditions, beliefs, commitment, and dedication of Umkhonto Wesizwe are reflected. Not only Umkhonto Wesizwe, but all the people who raised their hands and participated practically for this liberation to be where it is. Generally, people are shocked about the general political consciousness of the overwhelming majority of South Africans in terms of them, their regard of the ANC. But it is people like Vesile Mini, Solomon Mahlangu, Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, who embodied this image of the African National Congress, who implanted in the minds of South Africans this image of the African National Congress, to an extent that the people of South Africa know what the ANC is capable of. They are not second guessing it. Once the ANC try to deviate and do things that are not a true reflection of these traditions and history and legacy of the African National Congress, the people of South Africa know it and they respond accordingly. So it is for the African National Congress to continuously remind every person who regards himself as a member of this organization, not only to talk about the traditions of this organization, but to be seen to be living them. And that we should know that the people of this country know the ANC. Any other thing that calls itself ANC but is not doing that which they know, they are going to reject it out hand. Solomon Mahlangu is a hero of the South African Revolution.
I just wanted to check as well, if you can just share with us, what would your message be to young people today?
I think the young people, as the Deputy President said, should visit this place regularly. One would even suggest that it will be appropriate. The visit to this place must be part and parcel of the school curriculum. From primary, secondary, to contextualize the history. When you are here, when you go to the gallows, it's more than the stories that you are told. When you practically see, for this South Africa to be where it is, what the youth did. Very young, but their contribution, their sacrifice was like that of the most senior people in terms of age. Commitment, dedication, discipline, clarity of what is it that has to be done to make this country what it is. So indeed, like the Deputy President said, like I say, one would even recommend and pray that visit to the gallows should be a must for all our youth. By the time they complete their grade 12, they should have been here at least twice and been taken through as to what was happening when a person was condemned to death.
Alright, ke a leboga go ntate for your time.